Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Today's subject is Rabb or Rabbil Alameen. Rabbil Alameen means that Allah is the Lord of all the worlds. All the worlds means that there are many dimensions that exist that we don't perceive. You know, when they talk about 3-dimension, or it might be a 4th, a 5th, a 1,000th dimension that we're just not aware of. But Allah is the Lord of those dimensions also. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have put us on a road because Rabbil Alameen means that Allah is the nourisher to perfection. In other words, Allah created us and put us on a road within His system of creation that it will nourish us, care for us, feed us. Those attributes of Rahman, and Rahim will carry us in a way that is fulfilling, tender, kind, and will evolve us along the road of till we reach our level of excellence. We don't want to use the word perfection, but our level of excellence where we are good at what we were supposed to be. Especially when we recognize our mission and our vision in life, then that gives us that part that we're playing, then Allah just sweetens it up by feeding us everything that we need to be fed to give us the strength to do that job that's within His design. This is a deep thing, I'm telling you. And so we're happy today, and we want to improve. One of our improvements is like I was going to mention today, there are some of our brothers that come from time to time that have been here for quite a while. They come and go. Okay, they've been showing up on a regular basis a lot more lately. So I'm going to ask Brother Ayub, he's more in their peer group, to talk to these brothers and incorporate these brothers. Forget about past history. See, that's one thing. I think you asked me one time, what do the system want to do? You know, like, well, the system wants to do a lot of things, but one thing he wants to do, he wants to stop you. The main thing he wants to do is he wants to stop you. Okay, if he went past the time of openly killing you and what have you, okay, he still wants to stop you. If he went past the time of where he might have tried to use women to slow you down, well, once you become a Muslim, he can't use women anymore, because if you stick into your Islam, you can't do anything with women unless you get married to them. And sometimes you're so absorbed in your movement or the movement that to get married at a certain time would interfere with what you're trying to do. And that's if you're genuine. If you're just messing around, you just load up on a lot of wives and just cruise along like some of the other imams. But to tell you the truth, a lot of those imams that had 3 and 4 wives or plural marriages, at least 2, it seemed like they was doing a whole lot of work, psychological work. Because see, if you got one sister, she's going to keep you busy enough psychologically and every other kind of way. And if you got 2 girls competing with each other for attention, you're in a little trouble unless you're kind of a dictator or a very, very skilled manager. and you have high quality sisters that you're moving towards something, and each one of them are playing a specific part to get to where y'all all want to go together, then that's different. And if you have 3 wives, and if you have 4 wives, one of my friends, one of the Imams up in New York, we'd be sitting down talking, and he would just say, I have 4 wives. You wouldn't be talking about the weather, football game, anything. I got 4 wives. And I was just saying to myself, I imagine you do. I'm sure you do. You know, and we understand what's happening too. You know, okay. Another thing that the system was trying to do is degenerate Islam. First of all, they knew that the average Negro male had some control mechanism where he wanted to, in those days, dominate his woman, control his woman, or actually, a lot of niggas wanted to pimp. Okay, so they bring that mentality into Islam, and the European, the Caucasian, he knows what's happening with us because he's the one that made us into that dumb stuff. He's the one that controlled our lives. He's the one that had, you could imagine if a man, it was several periods in our existence. In the period up until the 30s and the 40s, in 1936, over 76% of black people came from 2-parent households. And I have on those tapes that I had from my father, after slavery, people went around looking for their siblings and their relatives. And my father was telling me about one of our siblings found another in about 1915 or 1920 or something like that. And they hadn't seen each other, 35 years, and let's see, 55 years, 60 years from slavery time. And one of them died on the spot. They were so happy. Maybe they was a little bit old by then anyway. But just their death came maybe to fulfill, they was kept alive to fulfill that goal. And after that goal, they just, you know, hey. The other thing was, if you were a father and you had a family and the slave master could sell your wife, your children, and you couldn't do nothing about it. And he did that regularly. Hey man, that's a horrible feeling. So the family was a big deal during Reconstruction and all that period. We had a stronger family bond than white people or any other people that was in this country. We was really, it was serious. Then after a period of time, in 1970 even, it was 70% black people was married and 30% was single family households. By 1980, it had turned all the way around. 30% were married and 70% were unmarried in that small period of time. These are their statistics. We don't know how accurate they are. But that showed that we had a very serious family bond. And that bond came from, if we could not control our environment, of course, and we couldn't control our future, if we couldn't control the buying and selling. So this put certain things in us, and it, in a way, in the first stage, it put a serious attachment to family. But in another way, something might kick in 2-3 generations after these events, right? Which would be up in the 50s, 60s, 70s, let's say 70s. 3 generations, let's say 3, 4 generations. Okay, what might kick in then might be a detachment of families. Since you remember historically that you couldn't control your environment. If you couldn't control your environment, later on, after the Reconstruction period, some other things may slip in, that slipped in by the European. That is a detachment to family. Now remember what's happening to the father by those years. If you're on welfare, you can't have a father in the home. Okay, they're giving sisters jobs and not giving brothers jobs. Okay, that's changing the balance in the family. That's why you would hear a lot of sisters say, I put him out of the house, and he's a man. A lot of brothers say, I know I got family members that have never paid, either physically paid the rent or paid the light bill or gas bill, because they've always lived with women. They've never paid them on their own. No, they just never have. Yeah, they've all, and these people are up in their 50s. They have never paid a light bill or a gas bill or a water bill because they've always moved in with women. Okay, back to this plural marriages thing. That stuff, if they wanted to run women away from Islam, they know that most people in America are monogamous. I mean, are just one wife, one husband, yeah. So they interject that into our head. And a lot of the stooge Negroes, that's what their job was. A lot of them imams' jobs, that's what their job was, to marry up as many women as they can, and then all the other women can't come in, they say, hold it, that, like for years in America, they talked about female genital mutilation. And they was talking about it for Sudan a lot, because that's more African custom than an Arab custom. I remember when I was just looking right at it, I was on safari, and it was a man and a woman taking a little girl about 13, and you could see the fright on her face. They was taking her somewhere. And this is the only thing that I could think of that made her fear that much, was they was taking her to have this operation. This is in a tribal area. I'm on safari and everything, and I see this, and I know it's something like that. The other thing was slavery in Sudan. Oh, they talked about slavery in Sudan, female genital mutilation. So if an African American woman or any American woman think that you're going to operate on her body, and she already knows the pleasure centers on her body, and you're going to clip that out, okay, so you can have, she's not even interested in no Islam. And the other thing, slavery in Sudan, when an African American male hears about slavery, he's repelled against slavery. So the point I'm trying to make is we're in a war, and they're using everything selectively, and specialized service being rendered on top of us. And so far, we are defenseless almost. If they putting 100 pounds of fitna on us, we're responding with a 10-pound response, semi-coordinated response. We're not doing okay, but we will, inshallah. So this process of Rabbil Alameen, nourisher to perfection, is the one that created us, has charges of us, and will raise us step by step on our way to excellence. In the meantime, wherever you're going, if it's a big place or a big deal that you're going to be involved in, it's going to take people. And the question was, what do they try to do to you? They try to make you, I'll put it this way. When 40 years ago, a few things was happening, so I said, okay, I'm going to study this stuff. And so at that time, they was trying to use, let's call it frustration or stress. You know, for instance, if you got certain goals and it's difficult to achieve those goals, you develop a little stress, a little frustration. So I studied, I would pick out what their goal was, and I would study that in detail. And I would give myself the anecdote. So if they was trying to produce stress, right, then I would de-stress myself. Of course, I already ran marathons. I was running 6 to 8 miles a day with sweat gear on. That automatically, that's a routine that takes away some of your stress. You hit the bag all the time. That helps a little bit also. But also it was other things that I was doing that was relieving the psychological and emotional stress. And this where Islam comes in with you are responsible to do your vision of whatever your duty is, right? And you're not responsible for anything that's above and beyond you. And we really like the reminders we get in modern times. So we studied our environment. We studied it then, and we're studying it even more now. The other thing is, they